Hello, welcome to New Pathways. I'm here at the Mount, and I'm here with Amber Chand, Visionary Leadership Coach. Thank you for being with me this afternoon.
Thank you for being part of this conversation. I'm very excited about this, Gwendolyn. In part, I have been so impressed by the ways you have shown up in our community over all of these many years, the innovative ways, the ways you've engaged with the community. So I want our conversation to focus on the most recent initiative that you launched a few months ago in response to the COVID-19. So tell us a little bit about New Pathways.
New Pathways Talks was a response to a need that I was seeing growing in our community through all the work that Bridge does. So Bridge works with individuals in our community, and those folks were wondering how they were going to subsist and how they were going to take care of their families. And then, as you know, I also coach leaders in our community, and those leaders were not seeing clear to continuing work around equity and inclusion, which they had put resources behind, which they had really put their values behind, and they were saying, I'm sorry, Gwendolyn, I don't think we can do this right now. And I was saying, oh no, we need this more than ever. So those things were happening at the same time, and I really felt strongly that Bridge could find a way to support people in the best way possible. So the talks were 5 to 10 to 15-minute talks that really touched on all the components of cultural competence and equity inclusion and what it requires to do that work. Mm-hmm. And it was meant to be accessible. So either at people's leisure or in team meetings or to facilitate conversations around. And then I was hoping that that would get people back on track to the work that we had done and sort of disrupt this either this paralysis or feeling like they had to hold on to old structures that we had been trying to get rid of. Mm-hmm. So that's what the talks were about. Right. And then we moved into the labs. And the labs, I was putting together the people that had participated in those talks, but other leaders or people that really were activists moving work on whatever level. And I put them together. And I could call myself a curator still, but I like kind of an alchemist. So I put people that I saw that really fit within a theme together to share what kind of work they did and what their perspectives were on COVID-19. Yes. And then from there, I didn't have a plan. I knew that we would ask more questions of them, and I knew that whoever showed up were going to be the right people to be there in our Zoom rooms. And we broke out to have conversations around those topics. And those were really powerful, and we're still sort of garnering all the information, their campaigns starting, and really that ultimate goal of getting people back on track to see how important it was to prioritize community and equity inclusion work has really been catalyzed.
But you've also been speaking, and I think all of us as leaders at this time are talking and trying to find our way into the sense of emergence. Because you've talked about urgency and the emergency, but the emerging into the new story. How is that feeling with you? What is this new emergent story that you're sensing your way into through New Pathways?
We weren't functioning well. We weren't taking care of our community. Many people were being left behind, and all the disparities that became really clear to us right as soon as we were thrust into quarantine. That's the story that we had to leave behind. The story that we're creating is still emerging. It is a story about resilience, but resilience, again, doesn't just apply to the people that have less resources or food. It's about all of us being resilient enough to step into a new story, step into what we don't know. What we don't know is what will work for all of us, what will work for our collective humanity. And so that's what's emerging. And all of us have to co-create that story together. We can't leave anyone out of that creation or out of the final vision. So that's what I see that's emerging.
Yes, you've been working on this for so many, many years. I mean, you've been seeding this. And Bridge was certainly the first place, the first platform where you did this work. And then New Pathways just showed up very quickly because you responded very quickly, right? I mean, I think it was within a month, suddenly there was New Pathways being showcased in our community. You mentioned the word curator and alchemist.
Yeah.
What powerful words to use for the story that is emerging. Tell me more about seeing yourself as a curator, but also let's go into alchemy. What does this mean for you? This place of the alchemist. What does that look like?
it was really filling all the gaps. What's missing? So I was listening to the leaders or the partners and hearing the response to the unknown, the uncertainty, hearing the risk involved, hearing the overwhelm. So I was listening to what they said they needed and providing that, and that was sort of the first 8. And then the other ones were all the other things that I was sort of sensing that folks needed. And then somewhere partly through the journey, we decided this isn't just for organizations. This is for every community member. We're all leaders. If we're going to co-create our story, we all have to be a part of writing it. So we decided to make the talks accessible to everyone. And in that, I feel like this is where the alchemy starts. We bring everybody and all their energy together, and we see what emerges from that. So I could have designed and we could have scripted, an hour and a half lab, but we didn't. We had a template and a holding place and ideas of what we wanted to happen in each section, and we let whoever was there really bring what they thought they needed and also what they thought everyone else needed. And really, we have quite beautiful action plans, campaigns, new partnerships emerging. It's been amazing.
So Gwendolyn, one of the things, of course, which surprised all of us was the pandemic, which, as you said, I call Corona Kali. Yeah. She kind of swept in such an accelerated way, and we were all left sort of helpless and powerless and didn't really know how to move. How did New Pathways, which I know was informed by the pandemic, a response to it, in what way was the pandemic sort of the backdrop to it? What sort of decisions did you have to make about how it was emerging? Is there anything that you can share with us about that?
In our area in particular, where it's mainly white-led organizations, what we know is what we return to, right? So that put us in a really precarious position when the most vulnerable were people of color, people of low income, people of immigrant backgrounds. So while we were responding to the pandemic, we were really responding to the core reason why Bridge exists, right? Really uplifting the most vulnerable people in our community, empowering them to take up space, to be the leaders that they are, to not be seen as to either not be seen or be seen as needy versus being seen as actual crucial elements in our community, right? In Bridget's story, we would not exist without the people that we serve. I would not be as effective without the people we serve. And so the pandemic reminded me of that. Immediately, I was thrust into spending more time with our immigrant women's group. There's where my wisdom and my stability in our organization comes from. It was really different to be in an emergency and they say, I need this, and I'm saying, so tell me how you need that, and then I'm going back to the organizations and being able to share that information, right? And then with that, we also knew that because our country is based on racism, right, and racialized policies and structures, we knew that we were going to end the New Pathways Labs with a decentering whiteness, anti-racism session. What we didn't know was that George Floyd's murder would happen, and that the uprisings would happen. And I'm really careful to call them uprisings, not riots, not looting, because if you think about it, COVID-19 had exposed all the racial disparities. We had all been locked in our homes. In our Black communities, we were losing our elders quickly. You couldn't mourn them, right? People weren't able to work because Black people were the first people to lose their jobs most of the time. So when that murder was on screen and this man was not able to breathe and was calling for his mother, there was nothing else to do but to hit the streets, right? And to hit the streets saying, enough already, and listen to us, and you have to stop this, right? It's everything I was just talking about. It was time to change. And our community, our Black community, the Black Lives Matter movement, the uprisings were saying, yes, we mean it. It's time for change, right? And what I've learned in all the New Pathways Labs, no matter what the topic in this curation and alchemy, the breath has been a constant, right? And what we can learn and see from COVID-19, which was a surprise for all of us, is that our mountains could breathe, right? Yes. Everything is lusher. People had seen scapes that they'd never seen before, right? Over by the Himalayas. Like, yes. we have a lot of lessons to learn. Yes. And it all starts with the breath. That's one of my biggest learnings. So whether it's taking care of yourself, like we talked about, and listening to yourself, whether it's allowing full humanity to Black people, so there isn't another Black man that dies saying, I can't breathe, or whether it's letting our environment breathe.
Yes, yes.
It all comes back to the breath.
So, of course, as you're saying, there were many surprises on this journey. And the fact that new pathways, I mean, the pathways are journeys. And when we step into a journey, unless we are really going for a goal, which is keeping us very much focused on the goal, the objective, but when we go on a journey, there is a quality that the journey is inviting us to be more open, to sense our way, as you've said so many times, to look for what is surprising.
Yeah.
Is there anything that has really surprised you, both as a challenge or as an invitation, but anything that surprised you that you might want to just share?
What has been the most, I guess it's not a surprise, but what's been the most beautiful outcome is that folks have shown up, and they've shown up fully, they've shown up trusting, they've shown up in their work days and in the evenings and on weekends, and they're really listening to one another, and they're practicing listening, and they're practicing not knowing together. And I think that's just been quite beautiful. I think it's what I hoped would happen.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's a surprise, but definitely a really nice outcome.
A nice outcome I love the way you said you don't sit down and actually rigidly create the business plan, which is the planning mind. Clearly, you understand how to create a successful organization. You've been doing that. But the idea of letting the journey, taking each step and seeing what's going on and how to move into it skillfully and thoughtfully.
I've been writing these blogs to sort of put ideas out for people that I'm coaching to be able to reference and use later on in staff meetings. That was a request a few years ago, so I created a website and created these blogs. Now these blogs are being passed around. I got this amazing feedback from a national organization that they sent it out to all of their organizations, and that they were all writing their Black Lives Matter statements based on what I had written. And I thought, wow, this is quite amazing. So a surprise is how much the work is needed, and that there aren't other Gwendolyn's all over the place being used and being seen by these organizations. I don't think I'm that unique. So I really, again, with the other requests that I make to people, I request that people listen to the people of color around them, listen to women of color, listen to the voices that you don't often listen to, because you're missing out on a lot. We could have responded much better as a country and as a county to this pandemic if they had had diverse voices and women's voices in a lot of these scenarios. So I think that's a big lesson that we all need to take away, because I am astounded at the amount of hunger there is for the work that I do, and how much gratitude there is for it. So I think that people need to open their eyes and look around them, because I think there are other people that are just as good as Gwendolyn and Bridge for them. So yeah.
But that's firstly, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That is huge.
Thank you.
You're right. There's a need, and you are stepping in to serve this need. In closing, I love the name New Pathways.
Yeah.
It represents everything you're talking about. What are you feeling is the next step, or is there an end to this new pathway story that you can speak on?
I'm speaking to the visionary coach. You know that journeys never end, right?
Journeys
They never end. There are we are evolving and emerging, right? So we talked about some of the support that Bridge has been getting. So we intend to continue with New Pathways talks, and we intend to have a lab once a month. And we also intend to have a podcast series, so that there will be continued ways to join in these conversations. And other than that, we don't know what's next. It'll just emerge.
It'll
just emerge.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.